If you are a cricket fanatic or low-key follows the gentleman's game, you should by now be aware that Uganda is hosting the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup Challenge League B, a tournament that forms part of the qualification pathway to the 2027 Cricket World Cup. Well, starting Wednesday 6th up until 16th, 6 nations, including Italy, Hong Kong, Tanzania, Bahrain, Singapore, and of course host Uganda, will battle it out in this competition at Lakeside Oval in Entebbe, and then of course right here where we're in at the Lugogo Cricket Oval. But at Deep End Sports TV, we're going to bring you everything you need to know about the tournament, from the tournament preview up until the game analysis, players' interviews, coaches' interviews, all you need to know. We'll have you sorted. My name is Malenga Marion, and to get our very episode started, I'm joined by former Cricket Cranes opening batsman, Michael Ndiko. Then, of course, he's a former Jack batsman, but who currently plays for Wanderers. That's Adonia Webari.
Nice
Gentlemen, good to have you guys.
Thank you very much, Marion.
Thank you, Marion.
Glad to be here.
How are we feeling?
Oh, it's exciting, to say the least, but great experience here today. And it's really, really an amazing opportunity and experience once again to have cricket right here in our backyard in Uganda.
Adonia, obviously, was just 2 days to the start of the tournament. Then, of course, we're here at Lugogo, and you see whatever is going on the ground and all that. How are you feeling? Are you confident we'll have a game that actually lasts 50 overs?
Well, that I'll leave that for the gods to decide, Marion. But I think from what I'm able to see, I think the excitement is palpable in the air. I think the Uganda Cricket Association has done a stellar job to make sure that we actually have this tournament very, very successful. The weather is certainly going to play its part. But knowing Uganda, we can basically experience all the seasons in one day.
Yeah.
So we'll certainly have a bit of cricket. But I would actually like to believe that the weather is actually going to be the very interesting player of the tournament. We might end up with shorter formats of the game, but above all, I think we'll have very, very exciting cricket on our hands.
We hope so. We hope that the gods bless us and let us enjoy the cricket. But obviously, in 2020, we hosted these tournaments, and we lost 2 games, right? Yeah, we lost 2 games. But we've also been, the ICC has given us a chance to host this tournament again this year. Michael, as in terms of significance, how important is this tournament to Uganda as a host?
Yeah, this tournament is very important to Uganda, and it's a great opportunity once again to both have the youngsters that are coming through. As you know, Uganda is always a fluid team, for example. So it's good to see that there will be great opportunities for the other youngsters, but also the general population gets to witness firsthand international cricket. And it's a great experience altogether for us as a nation.
Adonia, when you look at the publicity, obviously as a host, do you think UCA has done enough publicity, as far as the tournament is concerned?
Well, like they say in marketing, you can never have enough publicity. But I believe the association has done quite a bit, managed to clinch up a good number of sponsors. Social media is a buzz with news.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. I was seeing quite a bit of activity happening in the different night hangouts, Kings Park, and the like. I've also seen a bit of media interviews here and there. So I think the association has done, quite a bit. Some would say it could have been better, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. Yeah.
I'll stick with that, Donia. Obviously, when the team was being announced, even the way they announced it was quite creative.
Yeah.
But let's get to the team proper, and we saw missions, notable missions in Simon Tesazi, Roger Mkasa, then of course Bilal Hassan. These are guys who've been mainstays in the team. Were you surprised that these were the omissions we had when the team was being announced?
Surprised, not so much, but I must say that it was a very gutsy move from the coach to finally drop a pair of batsmen who have been perhaps Uganda's leading batsmen, in the last couple of years. So very, very bold move. Certainly a gamble that I hope pays off. Simon Sesazi was a batsman who was overdue some good knocks, picking up terrible form all the way from the World Cup and going into the tour, the training tour in SA, struggled with the bat. So listening to a bit of interviews here and there, I think he made it very clear that he needed time off to just get his mind right, and maybe he'll be back, in a couple of months. Roger Mukasa, another legend. If you mention the name Roger Mukasa on the international circuit, that is perhaps one of Uganda's most recognizable names. So, not surprised, but I think something had to give. The more the runs dried out, the less it seemed, reasonable and logical for them to be on the team.
Michael, Dodia just mentioned that, the boys were a bit off form. It's justifiable they were left out. But how much are they going to be missed, if any? Are they even going to be missed? Will the team miss, especially Simon Sesaze, and of course Mukasa?
It's really interesting. Of course, with Simon Sesaze's option of being a left-hand opening batsman, that is always a great addition to any team. And yes, the team may miss him emotionally, but I think practically it will be a different story, because at the end of the day, the technical team feels like Adonia mentions, it was time to make that decision. It seems a bit extraordinary because both coming out of the picture, but at the same time, it's looking at the benefit of the team. So I totally appreciate and understand the interesting circumstances, but yes, he will be missed.
Obviously, the players that replaced them and Raghav Dawani, and then of course Shridip Mangela. They made that debut, not really international, they made that debut against the PNG during the PNG series. And then of course they went to South Africa, then we had the Bahrain series. How impressed have you been, especially those two? How have they, you actually watched the Bahrain series. How impressed were you watching those two?
Well, you did mention PNG. Initially, personally, I wasn't so impressed with the two replacements. Yeah. But Raghav Dawan, especially with the recent tour to South Africa, he had a good experience there. And then the Bahrain series, he came of age. So I think it's interesting that they put up their hands effectively, and they will definitely offer a good option in terms of the opening. But particularly what mentioned Shridip Mangela, he's going to be an exciting replacement there for Simon Sesaze, because he's coming maybe one down, and he really gives a very good option for the team as a very well accomplished batsman, quite correct, and he's really impressive as a batter.
Just to stick to the two gentlemen, Adonia, obviously you weren't in junior, but you must have watched some games. I don't know, so at Entebbe during the PNG series. When you watch those two, what should the fans expect from them, those two?
Well, I think they have been, the critics have been loud, especially after the PNG tour and a little bit of the stint that we saw in South Africa. So the fans have been very, very harsh, and reasonably so. But after having watched a few games, I think they certainly have their work cut out. It's not going to be as easy as one would expect. But I think looking at them, they've got good heads on their shoulders. They've got a great shot arsenal. It's going to be about how well they're able to execute and put their skills on display. Suddenly the pressure from the 12th man is going to be immense, because like I said earlier, the expectations are high, especially for the two entrants. They came in at a time when we are struggling with batting. Uganda's batting woes have continued to plague the team, across tournaments. So I think it's going to be a very, very good platform for them to put up their hands and say, listen, we belong here, we can actually do the job.
Obviously, Raghav Dawan is going to be opening with Robinson Obuya. It's going to be his first time opening. Yeah, but are you too at peace with the fact that it's Obuya who's going to open for Uganda at this very, very important tournament?
I do actually think Robinson Obuya has been well prepared for the occasion. And as a young man, he's really very impressive. He has a big heart and a good head on his shoulders too. The good thing that you could really see, especially in the Bahrain series, if there was anything to pick up from that, is he really follows the instructions and is one to really put his heart out there for the team. So it will be very good to see how he partners up with Raghav Dawan. And also Raghav Dawan knows how to always take the aggressor role. So it will be good to see their partnership. I mean, again, it's just very early days after the changes in the top order.
Yes. Well, Adonia, obviously, Obuya finished as the top runner during the Bahrain series with 95 runs. But I mean, him being young and all that now, he's replacing someone who's been the same Montesans. And of course,
Yeah.
we also do not have a Ronak there. I'm going to pose the same question to you. Are you at peace with the fact that Obia will be opening for Uganda?
Well, there's a cricket friend who normally says that the most important thing on such a day is to make sure that the best players available have been selected. And I think one thing that Robinson Obia has made very clear that he is ready for this stage. He is one of the best options that Uganda has at the moment. But I have to admit, having watched him at the World Cup, he struggled from a technique point of view. Well, I hope that's something that he's been able to work on, coming into this tournament. He was trapped LBW quite a number of times. So I think bowlers will be looking to make use of that. But I hope that's something that he's worked on. But you mentioned something that I also thought I might pick up on. Robinson Obia is one of Uganda's bred locally talent, all the way from Ginger. He has come through the ranks. He has been managed and handled by quite a number of coaches. So I'm confident that he is competent, but the opposition will have something to say about that. Yeah.
Well, they say numbers don't lie, and obviously he came out as the top runner during the Bahrain series. And form-wise, you would think he's up there. It's a good time that we're actually heading into this tournament with the kind of form he has. But the other player that has people who has people talking is obviously the captain, Riyazat Alisha. His form is not performed. Of course, you hear Mamas, he's not performed to. Do you know how Ugandans know how he performs? Is that a worry that we're heading into this tournament with our captain, our all-rounder, Uganda's most important player, and he's not really up there form-wise?
Well, that is interesting and a very sincere observation, considering that Riyazat Ali Shah has always been Uganda's go-to man, especially in sticky situations to get Uganda home. However, there is always the technical aspect of when you get sometimes your best player to become the captain and he's taking on the responsibility, it tends to have a dip in his form. I hope it's not the case with Riyazat Ali Shah. But that said, the only hope Ugandans can have is that whenever it matters, especially at the high stages, Riyazat Ali Shah has delivered. Even as remember in the recent T20 World Cup, he's actually the one who helped to set up a partnership that later on got Uganda home in Uganda's first win in the T20 World Cup tournament. So, but this is a 50-over game, and hopefully we'll see if he is able to really bounce back. But yes, it can be a bit of a concern.
Yeah, obviously. And I want us to talk about Uganda's strength, which mostly believe it's bowling, then of course the fielding and all that. Because of that, you say had Craig William coming to as a specialist in batting and all that since last year, when you're getting ready for the T20 World Cup. But when you look at, since his hiring, when you look at Uganda's performance with the bat, are you satisfied? How would you rate, or how would you grade Craig's performance, with the national team?
Well, first of all, to be fair, Marion, I think cricket is not like milk, that you can put on a stove and in 15 minutes you boil it, it's ready to consume. I think, first of all, you have to look at just how much timber Craig was handed and just how long it's been. I don't think these batting wars have plagued us for time immemorial. So I don't expect that he'll be able to fix them overnight.
Yeah.
But I have to recognize that suddenly, having watched him with the team in Namibia, I think a year ago, his impact is evident. And it's evident on the players. He's a very inspirational guy. And I think players are able to take instructions and listen to him. And you just mentioned Robinson Obia.
Yeah.
I think his batting technique and his approach to the game, his temperament and understanding of the game have since evolved for the better, ever since he started working with Craig. You mentioned something earlier on that I also wanted to sort of backpedal for a bit. Uganda has been complicit in killing its own players.
Yeah.
I think if I take you back a couple of years when Roger Mukasa was made captain, and what proceeded was his downfall. So to just contribute a little bit on that Riyazat Alisha, not a scandal, but situation, I'm equally concerned that we might be bearing witness to yet another downfall of a player who has perhaps been Uganda's best in the last couple of years. But again, it's going to be a test of how strong his mind is, how he's able to adjust as captain, run the field, but also be able to go about his game. Yeah, so it's going to be a real test for him.
Are you in any way saying we shouldn't be giving, you say shouldn't be naming their best players as captain or something?
I think from a sports point of view, especially around team setups, having played football and cricket myself, I understand making your best player the captain, that's additional pressure. You must have done your research to actually know that he's able, to go about his game while also delivering as captain. So I think we're still running, the qualifications for being captain shouldn't necessarily be that you're the best player. You need to be a leader, but you also need to be a person who delivers for the team. Riyazat Ali Shah delivers for the team and is perhaps a leader, but I think I would still argue that he might be more useful to us as a player and not a captain.
Well, we hope he regains his form. Personally, as a fan, I'm really banking on Riyazat Ali Shah, of course, who is commonly known as Rizzo. But let's get to the teams proper. Michael, obviously, Uganda is ranked at the top amongst these 6 nations. They're ranked 23rd, followed by Hong Kong. But when you look at the last challenge leg B, we actually we lost to Hong Kong, and then of course Jersey. Yeah, but when you look at these current teams, who do you think is going to give Uganda the headache?
Well, that is very interesting indeed, because this seems to be a well-poised tournament. Uganda is definitely ahead in terms of the rankings, but in terms of form, especially in the ODI state current forms, you find that even with the build-up in Bahrain against Bahrain team in Jinja, Uganda definitely won't have a simple sail-through. That would be a very interesting match to see. But Hong Kong is definitely one to watch. And as well, there can always be the surprise one of Tanzania. That would be my take in terms of some of the teams that may give Uganda a bit of a challenge.
Adodia, which country do you see giving the cricket cranes the test?
I think every game is going to be a test for Uganda. And I'm premising my argument on the fact that, we're playing from home. Our team has always struggled, in front of the home crowd. But also the restructure and reformation of the team. It feels like a team that's still trying to find its groove. Looking at the series and preparations coming into this game, we did see them trying out a lot of combinations at the top. I think we did see Mangela opening some games and then the switch-ups. So it feels like that is going to continue for a little bit. So on a given day, every game is going to be a test for them. But also, like you mentioned, because they're the favorites and the most highly ranked, that I assume is going to also pile a little bit of pressure. But it's going to come down to how quickly they are able to adapt to scenarios and situations for them to be able to dig themselves out of whatever pickle they find themselves in.
I know you guys are playing it safe, but I'm going to specifically talk about Hong Kong. And obviously, the previous challenge leg, we got beaten. Our batting collapsed and all that. But this time around, do you see that, because the result we got in 2022, do you see that playing in the minds of Ugandan players, or are they good to go?
Well, you do mention an interesting scenario there. In terms of pedigree, when you look at the Challenge League B, the previous one, of course, Uganda had a bit of a one-up on Hong Kong, for example. But when you come up to 2022, it's only until when we were in Jersey, when Uganda was in Jersey, that Uganda was able to fully recover their pedigree over Hong Kong. But what will be interesting is for Uganda, without giving away too much, the fact that Uganda's team is, like Donia mentions, has had a bit of restructuring, but also the top technical team, the support staff is a little, not new, but having to try out their own story. So it will make that particular fixture a very interesting one. However, right now, the good news is Uganda has also a team that is willing to prove their worth. So that will also play to Uganda's advantage in terms of the players wanting to prove their point.
Yes. Adodia, maybe let's talk about Italy. Of course, they played 2 games against Uganda A. That's why you found the likes of Simon Cesars and Roger Mukasa, and they're doing that thing that side. Italy winning 1 game, and then, of course, losing the other. the fact that Uganda A would do that to, to Italy, do you think the cricket cranes go into with a bit of confidence when they play Italy?
So I think so. I think they'll go in with a little bit of confidence because even the last time out in the last league, I think Uganda basically just trampled over Italy. So certainly that is going to be very might be perhaps one of Uganda's simplest games. But obviously Italy is not a team to be trifled with either. With players like Gareth Bach can single-handedly sway the game to the Italian side. So certainly Uganda will have to do a lot of the easy stuff. But they also watching them playing against Uganda A, they do not look like the team we watched play a couple of years ago. So suddenly I'm assuming they've also gone through a series of changes. I believe the captain, Gareth Bag, also stepped down as captain for Italy. So lots of changes there as well. But the expectation is that they are not here to play either, and they're going to try and give it everything they've got.
Michael, obviously the Bahrain captain, Haider Ali, came out as the player of the series. But when you look at that Bahrain team, which player do you think the cricket coach should really be worried about? The fact that you watched that series fully.
Well, it was a very interesting series indeed. Of course, it began with T20 internationals, of which Bahrain won and Uganda won one. But coming back to the 50-over format, Haider Ali is definitely the talisman of the team, and that is always a great advantage for any team to have your captain always leading the troops from the front, especially on the ground. But of course, there was Ali Dawood, who got a bit of an injury. You only hope that he's, for the good of cricket and Bahrain, that he's back in his form and is able to perform. Of course, there is Ali Khan with, and then the one who bowls with the Sohail Tanvir action. So they are going to be a very interesting fixture as Team Bahrain. Why? Because they seem to be a unit that is well grilled together, and at the same time, they are really motivated. They seem to have a vision to go up the ranks, probably even up to ODI. Of course, that's Uganda's vision, to have the ODI status. So it's going to be a very interesting fixture, like I mentioned earlier on.
Obviously, Adonia, I know we've mentioned quite a few players from the Ugandan camp. But when you look at that team, who do you think might turn out to be the standout player for Uganda?
Well, I think I'm going to bet my money on one of the new entrants. I think looking at just how skilled they are and the level at which they've been playing, they played a lot of cricket in Asia, so suddenly a lot of the styles of play, the likes of Hong Kong and Singapore, they might do well against those teams, but also they do very well against swing bowling, and the kind of wickets that we have here will suddenly have a bit of patches. So I expect that, with the level of skill between Shrideep Mangela and Raghav Dhawani, I suspect those players will deliver for Uganda. But I'm also tempted to consider Robinson, with the kind of form that he's going into this tournament. As a young player, probably the youngest on the team at the moment, he has a big heart, but also he's got very smooth arms. So I think he's hungry to make a statement, and I think he knows deep down that this is a good chance for him to do that.
Obviously, as hosts, like I mentioned earlier, we managed 3 wins here, the last time we hosted the Challenge Leg Bay. What would be the acceptable position for Uganda? For you?
Wow, that's a very interesting one, because you would hope Uganda would get at least 4 out of 5, and therefore hopefully top this particular leg of the Challenge League. So, but the acceptable position, of course, ultimately is Uganda to come second after the 3 legs. So you would think in this opening leg of the tournament, Uganda would come 4th at least win 4 out of the 5 games.
4 out of who is Uganda losing to?
I wouldn't want to say, but just allowing that one bad match for the tournament, which tends to happen in such lengthened tournaments, especially in a small period of time. You would always allow for that one game, maybe due to the weather or anything that could come up.
And then I'm going to pose the same question to you. What is the acceptable position for Uganda to finish in this particular round?
Well, anything short of top level is really unacceptable. But I want to base my response on the fact that you know, the conditions here, not familiar to any country, any of the competition. So Uganda has got to take advantage of that. But also, I think Uganda needs to go into the second leg on top of that table, because when we move the conditions now, we'll be against Uganda. So anything less than the top spot is really unacceptable.
All right, we've done the analysis. You've had the analysis from the gentleman. But as maybe the final bit of it, your prediction. I know your heart might be telling you something, your head is telling you something. What is your prediction?
Wow, that's a very interesting one. But definitely I see Uganda topping the league, especially in this first leg. And overall, hopefully, Uganda will come either top or second. Yeah.
Adonia, you? What's a prediction?
I think Hong Kong is going to be on top of this one.
Okay.
At the end, by the time it's all done and dusted, Hong Kong will be, will be on top of this one. There's a surprise attack that I see in Tanzania. Tanzania has, built inroads in Uganda, and I'm actually worried that might be one of the games Uganda loses. But like Mike, I think I would put Uganda at number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, well, ball prediction right there. You had the gentleman that Michael is going with Uganda to top the table in this current round. Then, of course, Adonia is going with the Hong Kong to top the table in this the opening round. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the analysis. Like I mentioned earlier on, we'll bring you all you need to know from the analysis to, of course, to the players' interviews and the coaches' interviews. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, the Deep End Media TV. Of course, that's where you'll get everything that you need to know about the Challenge League. We'll meet you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Wow.